Welcome to Tardisian Files. Hello listeners! Sorry for the longer than average break between episodes, but as many podcast hobbyists know, producing a podcast is not as easy or as quick as some may think. Nevertheless, a mere few days before Christmas 2024 and the premiere of Doctor Who Joy to the World, we at Tardisian Files podcasts have our own Christmas special. One final instalment to our what if scenario from season 1, what if the Doctor hadn't met Donna Noble for a second time. In today's episode, we will discuss what if the Doctor hadn't defeated the CyberKing in the events of the next Doctor. This episode is partly inspired by the novel The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, the father of science fiction, as I found it fascinating how this 1898 classic detailed an alien invasion of Victorian Britain, and I wondered how the Cybermen led by Miss Hartigan would have mounted a similar invasion. And so, without further ado, let's get into the scenario. At midnight on Christmas Day, 1851, a woman named Rosita is watching in horror as a gigantic metal monstrosity rises out of the River Thames. The CyberKing. Speaking with the voice of Miss Mercy Hartigan, the spawning of this beast is a clear sign of the Cybermen's victory. Having spent weeks tracking the Cybermen through London, as well as their dog-like cybershades, Rosita and her friend, a man calling himself the Doctor, tracked missing workhouse children to the Salouse, where reports from Scotland Yard had alluded to them being taken to at night. Inside, the Doctor finds a long pole-like device, which he dubs a dimensional vault, though in this timeline he is unclear of how this machine works, though he takes it with him regardless. He notices an advanced-looking energy level gauge, well beyond the hydraulic and clockwork meters either he or Rosita are used to, and he realises that the children's work is almost complete, and they are expendable to the Cybermen. Using a cache of cyber info stamps to incapacitate the guards, the pair rescue the children and take them out into the streets. A surprise for both Rosita and the Doctor appears in the form of a young boy, calling the Doctor father. Triggering a hazy memory in the Doctor's mind, he slowly realises that he is indeed this boy's father. Not a Time Lord called the Doctor, like he believes, but a human man called Jackson Lake, who lost his wife to the Cybermen when they attacked his family at his new London home and abducted his son. Their joy is short-lived, however, as Jackson, his son and Rosita all run in the opposite direction to the CyberKing, hearing Miss Hartigan's thunderous voice as she demands the governments of the world surrender and proceeds to rain fire down on the city. Regrouping at his house, Jackson makes plans to leave London with Fred and Rosita. Grimly realising that they cannot stop the CyberKing, they instead intend to head to Southampton and flee to France, and from there to Australia, the furthest away they can get from the Cybermen. Unfortunately, without the 10th Doctor in this timeline, having already relocated to Pete's world in the alternate events of Journey's End, the world is doomed to be taken over by the Cybermen. Within hours, London falls to occupation, with the newly converted Cybermen forming legions and continue an invasion force across Britain. First England, then Wales, and Scotland. The British royal family are evacuated to Germany to be given shelter by the Saxe-Coburg family, though all that remains of the government and the military is the Royal Guard and a few lucky ministers. For a few months, the primitive Cybermen produced by the CyberKing appear to be confined to Britain, unable to cross the Channel or the North Sea. However, with the entire island's natural resources at their disposal, and Miss Hartigan's own brilliance, they soon overcome this limitation and cross the North Sea, conquering Ireland. By this time, the rest of the British dominions and other empires of the world have been alerted to the invasion, and they are working tirelessly to try and find a way to stop the Cybermen. But, due to the limitations of the technology at the time, no one is able to learn too much about the Cybermen or their weakness, unable to breach the Cyber Britain's defences for reconnaissance. Using steamships and submarines, the Cybermen invade Europe, invading the West before crossing into the Balkans and splitting off to invade the Ottoman Empire and the Middle East and the Russian Empire, going further east still into Asia. The Cybermen cross over from the Middle East into Africa, while the other legions take over East and Southeast Asia. By now, the Americas and Australia are the only landmasses uninvaded, and the remaining nations of the world are torn between those who have already consigned themselves to their fate and those who continue to fight. It matters not, as the Americas are soon invaded from the west from Asia, Native Americans becoming their first victims, and acting as the Cybermen's advance guard for the invasion of East North America and Canada. Mesoamerica and South America are soon invaded from both the west coast and the north, and the Cybermen take the islands in the Pacific as well as the Atlantic on the way. Finally, perhaps a few years into the invasion, Australia and New Zealand are all taken. By now, refugees from Europe and America have told the Australian forces about the Cybermen's allergy to gold, and due to the abundance of the metal on the continent, the last humans are able to mount a credible defence against the Cybermen in the form of glitter cannons. But by this point, the Cybermen number to over 1 billion strong, and the Australian continent and New Zealand eventually fall to occupation, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of Cybermen. By 1852, humanity has been fully converted. Pretty bleak, huh? But we're not done here. These Cybermen, first encountered by the Doctor in their native universe, never heeded his original warning. If they convert everyone, they will never advance, just a metal Earth with metal men with metal thoughts. But Miss Hartigan changed that. When she was made into the CyberKing, she recreated the Cybermen in her image. She gave them imagination and passion. These Cybermen have everything they need to face challenges in the coming decades, and there will be many. The first being technological constraints. For all their brilliance, the Cybermen are still constrained by the available technology of the time. The CyberKing, and likely the Cybermen it converted, are beings powered by steam and coal. With an entire planet of beings dependent on these fuel sources, and the sheer volume of over 1 billion units all burning coal day in, day out, the Cybermen would need to develop a new fuel source quickly if they valued the coastlines of their new world, this is. The second being the population. While Cybermen never sicken, given the crude conversion, they will likely be more liable to break down. Once they've converted the entire population, that is it. They would need to find new people to convert, which would mean leaving Earth. Finally, Miss Hartigan's lifespan. Miss Hartigan, unlike the rest of the Cybermen, remained mostly human. Her conversion appeared to lack any life support. Therefore, the Cybermen would likely have to sacrifice themselves to provide parts for a life support matrix for Miss Hartigan. However, the same technological constraints facing the Cybermen would mean that she would eventually die. So what do I think would happen? Well, taking inspiration from the comic Supremacy of the Cybermen, the solution to their population problem, and likely their energy problems, could be found deep in the Earth's crust. The Silurians. In the comic, we saw the Cybermen go back in time and convert the Silurians, and seize their technology to advance themselves. As the Silurians used renewable energy and had the capacity for space travel, in this timeline, the Cybermen would have likely awoken the Silurians and the Sea Devils through various drilling projects and deep sea exploration, and converted Homo Reptilia, reverse engineering their generator and space travel technology. The converted Cybermen would also be able to recall the Silurian arcs to Earth, providing more Silurians for conversion, and providing these Cybermen with the means to begin exploring the stars. However, by 1853, the Cybermen would have a new problem: the Sontarans. As seen in the events of Flux, the Sontarans invaded Crimea in 1853 during the Crimean War. Assuming this part of the timeline remains intact, the Sontarans would land in Crimea expecting to easily take over the territory. Instead, they're met by hordes of Cybermen, who deem them unfit for conversion and default to deletion. However, in doing so they learn of the Sontarans' cloning technology, and so they formulate a new plan, one that will provide them with plenty of host bodies to keep their armies replenished, and something they could use to preserve Miss Hartigan's mind, transferring it to a new host. They resolve to invade the clone factories on Sontar. Still being primitive compared to the Cyberiad Cybermen of the main timeline, they would likely have to have entered a temporary alliance with the Rutans in order to mount a credible assault on the Sontaran Empire, also taking advantage of the Rutan's shapeshifting and binary fission abilities to provide semi-suitable subjects for conversion to keep their armies replenished during the battles. Eventually, the Sontarans would be pushed back to Sontar and defeated, and the Cybermen would achieve their ultimate final victory. Using the clone factories to produce millions of new conversion subjects, the Cybermen would begin to advance into the universe once more, uniting with the native Cybermen of this universe until the entire known universe is converted. All because the Doctor was not present in this scenario to stop the CyberKing in 1851. Perhaps not the happiest outcome, but still quite a victory for the Cybermen. How do you think the Cybermen's victory in 1851 would impact the timeline? Do you agree with our what if scenario? Do you think it would have played out differently? Let us know in the comments section below, and if you like this episode, please leave a like and share with your friends. You can also follow us on Instagram and TikTok using the handle @TardisiumFilesPodcasts for regular updates around our new episodes and for sound bites from all of our previous episodes. As always, see you next time on Tardisium Files.